Good morning and welcome to Trading with Larry. I'm back. I'm a little jealous of Eric and Clint yesterday. It must have been a good one. I missed it. I was basically tied up and could not get out. Hopefully that won't happen a lot because I really enjoy doing the podcast. And we're to you at 8:30. Yesterday's inflation number was non-inflation, obviously, and I'm sure today I'm peeking over. Obviously, came in better than expected somehow. I don't know. I guess Donald T is cooking up the books the way Biden did. He was saying Biden put out fake numbers for 4 years, so I think we're getting a little bit of fakeness. Either that, or these are, you know, the lowest inflation numbers we're going to have for a while. I'm not really sure. I'll throw it to you in a little bit. But overall markets finally came in a little bit, but you can't get too. I know you're excited. I spoke to you before the podcast. You're all excited about a down move, and this is the beginning of it. Whatever. Let's hope that may be the case, since again we're sitting short. The one thing that I would say right now is, looking at volatility, it's up almost at 19, which is low levels in general. But compared to what's been going on for the last 4 or 5 days, this is pretty decent action. Again, S&P down 30, and it's interesting. I thought when we would have the sell-off or some type of sell-off that NASDAQ would underperform S&P, and that is certainly not the case. NASDAQ has been bid for a very long time and continues to stay bid here. S&P down more than NASDAQ, slightly, but more. Usually when we get this kind of down move, it goes the other way. Maybe it's because Oracle had numbers and they were good. But again, I'm going to throw it to you because you were all giddy about how this is the beginning of the move. And now, I know how you operate. We ticked up 6 handles off the numbers, so you probably are all bulled up again. So I'll throw it to you. Good morning, Eric.
Good
Uh,
morning.
I don't know what you're
There's
thinking now.
nothing like a couple of random ticks after a inflation report to change your mind.
Yeah, well, did it?
No.
Okay.
So we were talking about this with Clint yesterday. The inflation number came out, and it came in soft, but we've been pulling up the commodities chart of the index, and we've been showing how it's been going up. And it kind of makes sense that we have the reversal, which Clint and I were actually anticipating yesterday and discussing
Wait,
the possibility.
the less than 1% reversal after a 40% up move? You got him, baby. You got him.
Listen, it's something. It's something. But I
Yeah,
think
not
the
much.
market kind of ran out of good headlines yesterday.
I don't know. I think it's just randomness at a very high level in the S&P. And again, minimally the S&P should be 200 points lower. Price is price, so you can't argue price. But I think the other side of unchanged on the year is going to happen. It may happen next week. I'm not exactly sure. And then we may get into a period of much more uncertainty. And it was interesting last night. I was getting text after the close that Israel was going to bomb Iran and we were going to do whatever. And obviously nothing is going to happen there, especially right now. But that kind of got it going. And, again, maybe it's Oracle's good numbers or whatever, but
Well,
NASDAQ,
the U.S. got their personnel out of Baghdad. I think that's what scared everyone.
okay. I don't know what Baghdad has to do with anything, but, you know, what does Baghdad have to do with bombing Iran? I don't know. So I was getting calls they were bombing Iran. Um, in full disclosure to the podcast, I feel it's funny. I feel not great about my trading, and I've been doing a lot less of it and a lot more watching. But really, it's kind of interesting because the stuff that I'm giving on this podcast has been working. So I'm hoping people are using it. I haven't used it just because I'm a little bit gun shy. But if you look at the euro, it's now above 116. It didn't even trade in the 115 handle. It went from 114.90 to 116 like in a blip of an eye. And now it's at almost 117. I mean, it's at 116.25. I mean, these moves are unbelievable. The dollar is getting incinerated. Okay, incinerated out there. I think that's a big tell. Um, I'm just shocked. I mean, listen, it's going to take a little bit more time for the S&P to really go down because you've been talking a lot about it. It's the insatiable appetite of retail to buy high levels like this. So right now they're probably still not done buying, and there may be a little bit more to go. So keep an eye on that.
I don't
Um,
know. They had two very very good headlines to work off of yesterday. They had the China thing, which I know you don't think is
what
a
was the
great
China thing?
outcome.
What was
I
the
look,
China thing?
look. I know it's not.
But what is the
I
China
know it's
thing?
not a comprehensive deal, but that's something. Look, we're talking about the market. It's
Yeah,
not
you
that I
you listen.
you
You know
think
what? I literally am gonna stay mellow because I
okay.
can't. It's freaking late in the week. I want to try to get through the week. This is our last podcast of the week, so I'm going to stay mellow. But you're out of your mind, okay?
Okay.
Out of your
All right.
mind about any kind of deal or anything. The funniest thing is, I don't know if it was you that texted me or someone else was like, "Yeah, they're going to just slow play this down the line." Okay. And I guess it wasn't you because you think they had some kind of great deal. There's no deal. There's no anything. Tariffs are at 30 or 35%. And things are not good. Okay. They're not good. They're not signing anything. Okay. They're just waiting and delaying and delaying. So you might think that something good came out of that, but trust me, they don't have any deal. They got nothing. Okay. And they got to wait for the next meeting, which no one knows when that is going to be. Who knows? Okay. And then I think it was Besant. I mean, this is honestly, I can't even deal with this whole thing. It's a clown show. It's all fake. It's fake. Besson said, "Oh, we'll pause tariffs if people come with plausible trade deals to us." I mean, come on. Like, what do they think? It's like turning in a report for elementary school or something. Like everyone's going to be coming with plans, and no one even knows what we want to do. So I don't even know if they know what they're doing. I don't even know if the tariffs are even being put on. And now this guy is coming out in front of Congress and saying, "Hey, if people bring trade deals to us, we'll pause the tariffs." So what do you make of that?
Look, you didn't let me finish my thought. What I was going to say was that all the market had two very what they perceive as positive headlines yesterday, and
Who Time out. I'm
they
not
couldn't
letting you
rally.
finish the thought
They
because we're back to the
completely
same.
retraced the move.
But we're back to
So
the Eric, we're back to the same thing. You're saying there were two good things. I'm saying whatever you're saying is the CPI is a good thing. I'm agreeing with that. The second thing
okay,
I'm not agreeing with. There is no trade deal. There is nothing that came out of this. And you're saying there were two good headlines. And I would say there was one good headline
yeah,
that was,
the media was definitely painting this as a positive in the financial press, 100%.
well, then why did the market go down?
Well, that's my point.
Well, what's the
That's my
point?
point. The fact that it went down means that I feel like the market just kind of ran out of good
Yeah, we
headlines.
didn't, Eric, we went down 10 basis points. You're like making it like the market went down. Today, you were giddier than I've seen you in a while that the market's going to sell off, and we just retraced half the down move. Okay. So, what are you going to do now? You
I
know,
don't feel too giddy, but I guess you know. I guess you know.
no, I don't know anything. I just know that the market, especially you're to me leading me to believe that this is all based on price. Like if right now we were doing the podcast and market was cracking new lows down 40, 50 points on the day, which isn't even a lot. It's not even a percent, which you have to agree is not a lot after the move we've had. You would be
No,
you would be bearish out of your mind. But now the market rallied 15 handles and everybody's scared to short again. So, that's the tape we're in. Nasdaq's about to go positive on the day. Okay. It's only down 20 basis points. So like you're making an assessment that like yesterday's action, we should have rallied. We've rallied every day. So what's happened, especially
hold up.
yesterday,
You're getting on me for getting short here. You've been trying to get short like 15%
I'm not
ago.
getting on you for anything. You're not even short, dude. You're
Okay.
thinking about it. I'm just saying. I'm not getting on you. I'm just saying price is what the problem is here. Okay, this is all what it is. And then you're looking. It's funny because if you back us up to three
Larry,
months ago,
if you're bearish, this is a much better spot to get short than
I'm already
10% ago.
short. I'm already short.
Oh,
I'm not
no.
adding to my short. I've already disclosed that multiple times. I told you where I'm adding to my short. I'm just not getting excited when the market opens down 25 or 30 handles after running 1200 points. I mean, come on. There's nothing to it, okay? And the bottom line is again this morning when
Look,
things were
to your point, oil completely reversed its gains overnight. So maybe you're right.
No, I'm not saying anything. I think the market should be, I told you, 200 points lower, but you're not going to get that. And these headline numbers and all of this stuff is noise. Like the CPI PPI number this
Correct.
month, everybody knew was going to be weak. That's why they ran the market for the last month. So now the numbers came out and the market's having trouble going to the next level. But listen, call a spade a spade. We're 1.5% from an all-time high. So you can't get excited about a short because we come in 30 handles. That's
No, now you're bullish. Now you're bullish.
no,
I
I
could
am not
sense it.
good. I am not bullish
You
at
think
all.
we're taking out the high?
I do
Is that
not.
what you're saying?
I don't know what we're going to do. I'm assuming since we're so close that it will happen. I'm very surprised at this morning's action that we're only
You can't
down.
assume anything in this market, even if we're a percent. I've seen so many times where you see the big round number and it gets real close and then nothing happens. And it does the opposite of what everyone thinks.
Maybe, but the moves have been very, very small. I walked in this morning, volatility was up big. I mean, it was up at least 7%, which we haven't seen in the whole move. And then all of a sudden, we just come inside the range and that ticks down again. So, I'm not expecting much. I'm shocked where we are. You got to remember that there is, quad witching coming up. And, obviously 9 out of 10 times that's to buy, okay, where they cash the futures out for the quarterly expiration. So you have a lot of that involved. But right now, to me, to get a full down move or get things moving to the downside, you're going to need tech to lead the way down. There's no way S&P going down is going to lead the market down. Not a chance because no one's really in S&P. They're all in Mag 7 tech. So that's where your retail is hiding. Your retail is buying these AI names and tech and all this stuff. So when I come in and I see the S&P down, you know, 50, 60 basis points, which isn't a lot, and I see NASDAQ down 40, it leads me to believe it's going to be very hard to take the market down because the only thing people care about is tech. That's it. They don't care about S&P 500. So, I'm not, listen, I'm thinking we should be coming in here, but for whatever reason, market doesn't want to come in. You're looking at yesterday's action. That's like a small snippet in time. You can't get a really good read
I'm
off of
looking
that.
at yesterday like they when you have a reversal on, again, quote unquote good news, Larry. I don't want you to get agitated, but quote unquote good news, and you have a reversal on it. That's a signal you look at where if you have volatility kind of follow through to the upside, you're looking for downside in the market.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay. How are you considering that downside in the market? The market went from 48.30 to
Yeah, the move
6,000
was it
timeout
wasn't.
to 6,080, which is over 25%. And then the market came in 40 basis points, and you're thinking it's ready to go down? I mean, I hope so. But to me, that's
It's
not
ready
only
ready to go down. I'm going to borrow like Jay Powell, thinking about. So maybe the market is ready to drop. It's one day. It's a one day thing.
one
Yesterday,
day
let's see how.
thing. We didn't go down. You're making it like we went down. We didn't go down. We were up 30 handles. We came in and ended down what, 10 or 15? I mean, we didn't end down a lot. I mean, and then today we were 35 lower or 40 lower, and now we're going green again. So I don't know. I don't see what you're seeing, but I do see a lot of divergence out there. The one trade that hasn't worked. Um, you've been pressing on this bond short, and bonds are now back to high
Yeah.
levels in price and low yields at 435. These are in full disclosure, these are not big moves really in the bond, but every time we get to 450, 452, we come in to 430, and then go back up. So it's definitely range bound. And listen, I think there's some outsized risk here in the sense that the market's at very high levels. Okay. It I keep saying it, and price is price, but really, I believe we could come in minimum of 200 spool points. Okay, and then we'll be at a level that is interesting, and people are going to get whacked. Now that may happen. Last night there was rumblings about that there was going to be a bombing in Iran. I mean, I don't even know if that's even true. Oil ran up. I loved oil at 65. My problem is we haven't been trading great. So when you're not trading great, you got to use a discipline. And I haven't been doing trades, and now these trades have really been working. This oil trade got up to almost $70, and then the currency trade, which we liked, the euro. It's up about two figures on the highs of the year. This is the highs of the year, lows in the dollar against the euro, British pound, not the yen, but the yen got down to 139. It's 143. The dollar is so weak, and I'm not understanding why the dollar is so weak. So weak. Doesn't matter. The dollar is reminding me of this gold trade where gold went up and up and up and up for almost a year. Not coming into the beginning of this year, last year, it went up every day. It didn't matter if the S&P was down, it didn't matter if the S&P was up, it didn't matter if the dollar was down. None of it mattered at all. So like I'm feeling that that's the same thing in the currency right now. Like, I mean, we haven't been at these levels in years. I mean, this is unbelievable. And you would have thought with Donald Trump, we would be king dollar, but I guess it's king Bitcoin. He doesn't care about the currency; he only cares about Bitcoin. But I'm just shocked that the dollar is so weak, and I'm not understanding with a good U.S. stock market, why the dollar is so weak. And interestingly enough, the euro, let's say the euro itself is down over 10% for the year, which is a real significant amount. If the S&P is up 1% for the year, all right, and you're from another country buying US stocks and you don't convert the currency into USD, okay, you're losing money. You are in USD, but you want to be in your own currency. So in reality, the US market is down, in dollar terms for sure for the year. So I think there's a lot of cross currents here. Again, you were pointing out 2 days ago the CRB, which is really it used to be the key inflation gauge, right? Everyone would look at CRB to gauge inflation. I guess that's not as prevalent anymore, but CRB has gone straight up, which is showing inflation across all products. So I'm lost in the sense that the market is so much more bid than all of the clues. And we try to use these clues as like a jigsaw puzzle, and the puzzle pieces are not fitting. So again, I'm
Well,
thinking,
CPI lags the commodities index. At every turning point in inflation, if you look at what commodities are doing as a whole, you'll get a much better clue, I think. And I think CPI kind of lags by about a quarter, maybe a little bit more. You saw that in 2022. Peak inflation, everybody was okay, inflation is going to be here forever. And in the middle of the year, the commodities index started to drop. By the time the market realized there's disinflation, the commodities index was already down like 10%. So here you have the reverse. Nobody thinks there's inflation. Everybody thinks there's a broken tariff narrative, which in the short term is true. I think in the longer term, it'll come out to pretty much exactly what people thought, which is it will produce some sort of inflation. We're just not seeing it yet. But commodities are already telling you that story.
yeah, but I don't think that the tariffs are even in anything because I don't think there are any. They're very, very little. They're paused. No one knows what they are. Businesses have slowed down, and I don't even think tariff is in the narrative at all. I mean, it may come back at some point, but it's not in the narrative. They know, everyone knows the taco trade. That trade
Right.
generated a ton of money, okay? And he tacoed out. And the bottom line is no one is afraid. Why would you be afraid? Because no one is negotiating with the guy. No, like Besson said yesterday, bring your trade deals to us and we'll give you a reprieve. Well, I don't know. The EU is bumping up against a July 5th date for tariffs to be put in. They took them off. I don't know why we took them off. Why would we take them off? That's the question that I don't understand. If we want to put heat on them and we want them to come with their best deal and feel scared, why would we take tariffs off and pause them? You know the reason. It's the reason we talked about from day one. We don't want to have tariffs in because we're tariffing ourselves. Okay. So, Trump basically went hog wild. Then they tamed them down and said, listen, you're tariffing yourself. So now there are no tariffs. But my question is, when do you think the EU is coming to a deal with the United States? When? The due
Yeah.
date the due date is July 5th. Okay? You know when they're coming? July 4th at night at midnight or whatever. Okay? They're not, why would they make a deal today? Makes no sense. They don't want a deal. If they wanted a deal, it would be done. They How long would it take to formulate a deal? 2 days? Get guys in a room, tell them don't leave till you come up with a fair deal? Where are they? They're basically just waiting because they know Taco Jones is going to basically chicken out as soon as they get close. Oh, the deal is okay, but, they got to work on it more. So we'll give you till, September. I mean, this has been going on from day one. So it's, these countries know. I don't think tariffs are in. In my mind, unfortunately, the market seems to me like I'm hoping it goes down, that it doesn't want to go down. I mean, you when this market does go down, you're going to see Nasdaq leading the way down, 100%. Nasdaq will have to lead the down move, and right now, it's not doing it. It's not doing it at all. S&P still above 6,000. Um, you're thinking we came in a lot. We're like down 13 handles day over day or 20 handles day over day. I don't see any kind of down move. I mean, yeah, off the high, we're down like 50 points. But I mean, you think 50 points is a lot on a $6,000 index?
No, I don't. I keep saying I don't, but okay. I'm seeing a little bit of a change in the way the market has been operating over the last few days, maybe a couple of weeks, where all of a sudden good headlines are not keeping the market up, and so that's a little bit of a sea
Dude,
change.
listen, the funniest thing is the headlines that rallied us off the bottom weren't even good headlines. They weren't even good. It just the
That's a
market
good
just
point.
turned on a
Yeah,
dime. So I don't know, looking at the
I
market.
wouldn't say they weren't good headlines. I think they were incomplete, inconclusive headlines.
No, they
Lots of
were good
questions about
headlines in the
headlines.
sense that,
But what the market did was just push everything up. And the reason I think it happened actually is more psychological than anything. I think the algos jammed everything up. By the time people came in at 9:30, the markets were already gapped up. You saw that a few times. And then you have the emotions come in and people are like, "Hey, we got to go in." And they wound up just, kind of chasing the high. That's why you see that point of control on a volume level so close to current levels. Nobody bought the lows. Everybody was forced to buy the highs.
I mean, definitely people bought the lows. I mean, there's definitely buyers there. Dude, we were doing, listen, for every buyer, there's a seller, right? It has to work that way. And it was funny, we spent a lot of time over the last couple of days studying the volume because we really focused on light volume and whatever. Do you know what kind of volume we did in E-mini S&Ps when we traded the low? We traded 4 million E-minis, okay? So there was massive buying and massive selling down at those levels. And somebody bought that thing. Again, you're looking more at retail. Retail is in definitely at higher levels because they couldn't buy down there because they were buried, and then the market came back. But you know, looking at where we are on the S&P is crazy because when tariffs came into play, we were at 57.50, maybe even lower. So we're up 5-6%, and the only thing that's really happened is they've thrown some tariffs in. Who knows what they are, but it can't be viewed as positive. But maybe what happened is a little bit of what you talked about. The market or algos caught everyone short, so the extension on the move was a little bit bigger to the upside. I just, you're looking at the market like, hey, we had some good news headlines and the market hasn't rallied. Maybe maybe you got to look at this like, hey, we've had a sick move up, one of the biggest moves in the history of the market on the upside in the shortest period of time, and now the market is consolidating the up move and may take another leg up. I mean, I'm hoping I'm not right about that, and I really like to, have it lower so we get some trading action, but overall you can't trust this. But
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that 100%. And especially that some of this, let's call it turbulence in the market over the last 24 hours, is like a war headline and nothing ever happens, right? I mean, oil already reversed, gold is still up, but I don't know. It's I've yet to see a war headline have any kind of real follow through. So yeah, you could be right.
I don't know if I mean, if this is what we're down on a war headline, it's actually a zero headline. I mean, I'm looking, we're down 20 basis points today, and yesterday we were down less than 20, and there's no war. There's not going to be a war. There may be, they may let Israel bomb Iran, which would be probably a really good move. But I don't think, I don't think that that's in play here. I mean, it ticked oil up, but again, there are just too many cross currents. Now you got bond yields down a bit. Now people think bond yields are coming in, and prices are going higher, even though it's probably a false breakout. And maybe bonds are telling the story. I think bonds and the currencies are telling the story to a weaker market moving forward. But again, the market has been extremely resilient multiple times over the last few days. We've been below 6,000, which isn't a key area, but every time we get there, we go right back up. So, again, I'm not so convinced about the move. Um, I would tell you though, like looking at like Bitcoin, let's say, Bitcoin's been a big fat zero for the last 2 or 3 months. Like I don't, it's funny because it's in no man's land. It's at like 107. Like I don't know. You know.
Bitcoin's going to move to its own pattern and beat and rhythm and whatever. So, I mean, okay, that's over the last 2, 3 months. I know the market has been up, but look at it since the beginning of the year, since November, since last year. I mean, it's a 107. Do you think it's going down? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to.
I don't think it's going anywhere. That's what I'm trying to say to you. These asset classes like Bitcoin, even on the
One thing I
year.
am concerned about is Ethereum. I got into Ethereum and now it's kind of down from where I bought it.
No way. I don't even
Yeah,
believe it. I
yeah,
can't. Seriously, you had a losing trade? It's
yeah.
unbelievable.
I
I
felt like
can't.
sharing
I
that just
can't
to make
even
you feel better.
the funny thing is this podcast is a confessional. I always tell the truth, okay? You're the guy never admitting any of your trades, but I'm happy that you admitted that today. So what does that mean? You're getting out? You're staying
You
in?
see my alerts. You see my trades.
Dude,
You know my
are you
PM.
getting out or are you staying in?
No, I'm not getting out.
Okay, of
I'm
course,
staying in.
dude. You are Johnny Retail, baby. Just let it go. Hope it comes
Yeah.
back. It always comes back. Don't worry. Um, I don't know. I
No, I'm
listen.
at break even. I thought that maybe we're gonna have a little breakout, and let's see. I think
I mean, I
the
just like I'm
stable
not.
coin thing is on everybody's mind, and that all runs on Ethereum. And you see a technical breakout. It was in a 1 month holding pattern, broke out to the upside above 2750. It's basically there now. That's pretty much where I bought it. But let's see how it goes. I'm going to hold it for now.
Yeah, where's your stop? Hmm, Where's
Zero. All the
you have
way
no
down.
stop. You have no
No
stop.
stop. You can't have stops on crypto.
Okay, dude. Well, listen, I may have
They'll
to
take
kick,
you
I
out
may have to
overnight.
kick you. I may have to kick you off the podcast and send you to get trading help.
Okay.
You always need stops in everything that you trade, no matter what.
You
No
can't put
matter.
a stop in
I don't.
crypto. You
Well, you
can't
have to.
because it could take you out. No, you have to
Well, what? It
position
takes
correct.
you out. Then you lose. You got to have stops in. Listen, anyone
No,
who's
no.
watching us out there, do not trade without stops. It's unheard of. Okay, I don't care. You don't.
You trade with stops and
If
options.
crypto. Let me ask you a question. Okay, let's
No,
go through a
you trade with
let,
stops and options.
I. What are you talking? No, because options is
No,
defined
why
risk.
not? You said
Because it's
always have
fine,
stops.
dude. Listen, now dude. We're getting close to the end today, so I'm gonna remain mellow. It's a Thursday. You're literally giving horrendous advice. Okay,
Okay.
I'm just telling you. When I buy an option, I know the beauty. It's funny, and I'm gonna really get into this right now. Everybody, like because I have products and we trade mostly options. We trade some futures products, we trade a little bit of equities, but we trade options. And the beauty of what we do, okay, is we have something called defined risk. Okay. We have an actual cost that we can make or lose on every trade. So that's our inherent stop. Okay. So if
Right.
we buy an option at $3, listen, we want to make money on it, but we know the most we could lose is $3. In Ethereum, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. So let's say
Why? I have
Ethereum,
the same approach you have with options. I put on a
no, you don't.
position.
No, you
I'm
don't.
willing for the entire position to go to zero as a defined risk trade. I'm
Well,
almost
that's
treating crypto
ridiculous.
as you do with
That's
defined risk options.
absolutely, dude.
because you never
Option.
traded crypto. You
Dude,
don't
I
understand
can't
what could
listen to
happen
me.
at
We're
night
done.
when
We're done.
everybody's
We're
sleeping
done
for the
talking about
weekend.
this. We're done talking. I can't even believe this. You're comparing an option position, which gives you inherent
Yeah,
leverage. It gives you control of, in equities, 100 shares of stock of a $500 name or a $300 name for a defined amount of risk, and you're putting on Ethereum to zero. Like, I mean, that's just ridiculous. There's got to be a level that you're not right.
you gotta have a you can't over leverage a crypto position
It doesn't
because of
matter, but
exactly.
nobody trades a. I don't buy S&P right now and say I'm long S&P right now, and I'm not using a stop because I bought, you know, 180,000, and I'm willing to let it go to zero. That's not trading. I mean, come on. It's absolutely
Okay.
crazy. I'm just saying it's absolutely crazy. What I'm
No,
saying
it's
to
not.
you is,
It's not because you don't understand what could happen over the weekends
well,
at
what?
night with
So then
crypto.
it happens and you
You get
lose.
stopped out, it comes right back.
Eric,
Why even get
Eric,
stopped
can
out? You
I
put
ask
on a
you a question?
position
You're not,
that you
you're
like,
not
and you keep.
even, listen, for people out there, this doesn't make any sense. Okay. You bought it at 27.50. Okay. Let's say it goes to 25.50. Okay. You don't want to have a stop anywhere. What if it goes to 2,000? You're
If
just
it
going to
goes to
sit in it?
25.50 and I decide I don't want to be in it, I'll get out on my own. But I'm not going to let the stop get me out of a
But
crypto
price is
position. I'll get
price.
out on my own.
Price is
Now
money.
with futures, I'm
Listen,
always using
listen.
stops.
Okay, whatever you say. Okay, listen. In my product, your Alpha Gambit, you don't use stops. Every product that I have, inherent options have an inherent stop. We know our risk.
Right. But
It's
what's the difference
defined.
between what's the difference between a
Big,
defined risk option trade?
big.
You're risking X dollars per trade.
But you're not,
So what I'm
because you're
saying
not
is you
willing
put
to
on
put
a
a
crypto
stop in the
trade,
market.
risk
You're
X
not
dollars per trade.
good. You're not willing to put a stop in the market. So you're risking, you have undefined risk. Okay. Undefined. What I'm saying to you is if you buy
But
it
it's
at 20,
inherently defined if you're long.
well, let me ask you
Your
this.
risk
Why do you have a
is
problem put a stop?
defined.
Why do you have a problem putting a stop at Ethereum? I'm not understanding. Something could happen. Of course, something could happen. But when that happens, you're wrong. If you buy it at 27.50 and you say, hey, listen, the most I want to lose on this trade is $5,000, doesn't matter. You're worried that you're going to get stopped out and it's going to go back up. What if you get stopped out and it goes down and you never get stopped out? I mean, it's not the right way to trade. I mean,
Well, let me ask you a question.
you got to have,
Portfolio managers that are managing pension funds and all that, you think they're using stops on their positions and on their crypto positions
that's an
that they're now
investor.
in?
Eric, that's an investor. That's not a
Okay.
trader. A trader is using inherent leverage in general, okay, to make upside return with what I call, listen, nothing is a defined risk in futures, but I put a stop in. One of the worst trades I've done this year is I put a stop in currencies. I was long the euro, I was long the yen, and there was some crazy headlines, and I got stopped out on the lows. I knew it was
Yeah, I
wrong.
remember that 2 times, and
Right.
those were
But
great
I knew
trades that
it.
you missed out on because of a stop.
Okay, exactly. But I'm here to play another day. And it's important to do that because listen, I've managed hundreds and hundreds, probably well over 1,000 traders in my career. And I've watched everything that you could imagine happen that you can't even believe could happen. Okay. And what I've seen is why people have blown out of business is by not using stops, averaging losing trades, all things that we teach our subscribers never to do. Okay. So in your products, that's fine. Don't put a stop in because you may get stopped out and you may not like it. Well, you got to have the stops in my mind, in my products, because you want to have an absolute out. Okay. Listen, I didn't deserve to be long the currencies. I lost as much as I could possibly lose on that trade. I didn't want to put us in such a deep hole and I stopped out. And you want to know what? The truth is, I could have gotten stopped out and rebought it. Okay. Even though it moved quickly, like you could get stopped out of Ethereum. Okay. At, whatever the number is, and then rebuy it back. It's just a protection mechanism so you don't blow up. Okay. Because while you're sleeping one night, something crazy could happen. I've seen it. I've seen I've seen so many things that it's scary. Okay. And maybe, listen, maybe that's bad,
You use
but,
stops
but
forget about the product. Forget about giving the retail audience a trading alert and managing that. That's one thing. For your trading, do you use stops all the time?
yes, I use dollar defined stops. I do. Okay.
Okay. All
All
right.
the time. I do. Just because, and listen, it may be so much lower than the market that it probably may never come into play, but I have them just in case.
Like a
Because let me
crash
ask you,
stop.
no,
That's
but let
called a
me ask
crash
you a
stop.
question. You buy Ethereum, you bought it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may get lucky, you may make money, whatever. But let's say you don't make money. And let's say there's no level that you think you're wrong and that you need to get out. You
Yeah.
just
No, there is a level. There is a
right,
level
but by
for
having
sure.
that stop, just put the stop in at that level, even if that level is 20% lower than the market. Okay.
All right.
But this
I'm going to
way,
give it a year. I'm going to start putting those crash stops in there just for you.
whatever. I always think it's important, especially for newer traders and people out there that are watching, to always put in a stop order or be willing to get out. Now, I'll tell you in options,
Right. Be willing to get out and a stop are two different things. I'm always willing to get out. I just
dude,
want to
but you
do it on
can't
my own
control
terms.
it. Where were you in 2010? Were you
I don't know.
trading?
I forgot. I was in school
Okay, so you weren't even trading. We had something called the
having my
flash.
first kid.
We had the flash crash that day. Okay.
I remember.
Okay. Well, my P&L swung $100 million that day. 100 million. Okay. You want to be in that position? The bottom line is that wasn't real. That
Tell
was
us what happened that day. No, seriously, I actually want to know for myself what happened. How did you handle the flash crash?
you couldn't handle it. There was nothing to do. I mean,
So,
it
what
was
would happen if during the flash crash you have a stop in there? What would happen?
I would have been stopped out way before I would have been in the position that you could potentially be in. Okay. And
So you didn't
that's,
get stopped there? What happened?
I did not, I did not because the stuff that I traded, none of the prints were real. It's hard to really explain it. It would
That's
take a long
crazy. That's
time to
I know what you're
go
talking
through it.
about.
But what I'm saying to you is forget even the flash crash.
There
You
were a
got
lot
to,
of fake news that day. Is that correct? That's what kind of.
yeah, they printed Procter and Gamble at $2. They printed all these stocks. No, all the prints were taken away. But I just want to be, and you know what's funny? If I was able to act really quick, I probably would have had my best trading day I ever had, because I would have been short and then I could have flipped it. But it's hard to explain. They took trades away from people. It was a crazy day. But my point of bringing up the flash crash, even though that was, an anomaly and not real, and the computers really broke that day, I want to always have stops in as protection against massive downside, and I think it's important to do that. And I get what you're saying. You're willing to get out, and you know your risk. But I'm just saying, to me, I just want to follow the discipline over and over again. So that's why I use
100%. That
stops.
is
You don't have
very
to use
valuable to
stops.
do.
I just
Yep.
think especially new traders need to use stops. I highly recommend it. It's important. It gives you defined risk. It's funny. I do a lot of webinars and I teach a lot of options and I'm out there a lot. Um, the beauty, it's funny. I always have to say, don't be afraid of options. I know it's a scary word and whatever, but the funny thing is, utilizing options is probably the greatest thing in trading history. Okay. It gives you inherent leverage. So you get to, with one option, control 100 shares of stock. Okay. Which is incredible. You don't have to put up a lot of money to do that. I could buy Apple in the money options for $600 or $700. That gives me control of 100 shares of a $200 name. So options are the greatest thing ever invented. Also, you have defined risk, meaning if you're always buying options, you know what you can lose. So you don't have to even really worry about putting in stops because we've been wrong on this entire up move for the last, let's say, 2.5, 3 weeks. We're only out a couple of 100 points, but we know what our risk is. Like we've lost less than $3 in the S&P, and S&P has moved $70 today. So it's a pretty good, it's a pretty good tool. It's way better than trading outright anything in my mind.
You know what
But
I'm noticing with retail, the self-educated investor. I think there's retail, and then I think there's the something called a self-educated investor. I think the self-educated investor is a couple of levels above uh, retail. But what I'm finding with them is that they're really embracing options, and I think they're trying to level up on that knowledge and figure out not just like plain vanilla calls and puts, but like stuff that you do, which is multi-leg positioning. You've introduced that to your people with the SPX trader, right? So that's two leg. I think the trend is now okay. Well, how do I do a butterfly? How do I do a ratio spread? So I think that's catching on. No, I think that's something that's very interesting.
yeah, I think, what I like about what we do at our products at the Opportunistic Trader is we educate. Then we give the trading alerts that are very, very specific down to pretty much everything that all you have to do is click in the trade the same way you would click in a stock trade. And we give you different alternatives. I mean, I haven't really recommended doing butterflies or anything really crazy. We're down to just doing credit spreads, which are, you know, I did a webinar yesterday on this product, and it's my favorite product is these credit spreads because I could be wrong and still right. So that's the beauty of doing, these credit spreads. It gives you a lot of room. You can take as much room as you want. You like to do them way more out of the money than I do, taking in less money, but less chance of going in the money. But there's many ways to trade all of this stuff. But really we got away today from the markets. Overall, I just want to, because we're going really deep and I want to, wrap here, but, markets down very little, probably trades higher on the day again. I don't see much going on. Inflation number was tame. They could use that as the excuse. Looking at my board, the bond yields are the outlier. They tricked everybody, and they're back higher. Bond price, lower yield, and the currency may be a good level at 116 to buy some dollars potentially because this move looks a little outsized. Oil still in an uptrend, even though it pulled back a little bit. You may see $70 on that, and really, that's what I'm seeing. But it looks overall quiet. I know it was a little exciting because we were down like 40 handles overnight, and we haven't had that. But until we
You
get,
knocked the excitement right out of me today, man. I'm no
yeah,
longer
well,
excited.
thank God, thank God. I'm not.
Okay, without looking, what's the at the money straddle right now? Without looking,
I
Thomas,
would
don't help
say
him.
he's not here. He's on his European tour. Um,
Uh,
I would say, I would say 37.
it's 30.
That's very low. Are you sure
It
there's
is.
some? That's
No,
way
no,
low with volatility back up above 18. It should be much
31,
higher.
like 31. Yeah, incredible, right?
It's low. It's low.
Maybe another, dare I say, iron condor kind of day.
Oh boy. All right. We're going to end on that, people. Hopefully, a lot of people learned today. We got into it a little bit. Um, in full disclosure, we like to use stops on everything other than options. Eric is you know, control guy. He wants to control his risk. He's worried somehow about being stopped out. Um, I've seen, listen, I'll leave it with this. I've
Because I
seen,
know I'm always wrong. So
I
you know,
understand
I
that, but you got to live with it. I've seen guys lose full accounts by not using stops. So we don't want to do that. Listen, I wish everybody luck today trading, and tomorrow is my Ask Me Anything. Hopefully, people wrote into feedback at the opportunistictrader.com. I will get to everybody's questions and answer what comes in. And I wish you all a very, very good weekend. And we'll be back Monday with, our scorecard and how everything went. Good luck today trading and enjoy the weekend. Peace.